they all in turn decided to look like Nala and confuse Damayanthi. So Damayanthi is a bit confused and she looks for a way to identify the celestials over Nala. The celestials have these divine marks, and according to these divine marks, they do not perspire, their feet do not touch the ground, and they don't blink their eyes, and that they don't have any shadow. But Damayanthi, she's not able to see or notice any of those signs on them. And after this, Damayanthi decides to seek the celestials' refuge, and after showing her respect and offering her prayers to them in her mind, she says to them with a very fearful and trembling voice how she has chosen the king of Nishada, Nala, as her husband on hearing the words of the swan. And she asks the gods if those words were true to direct her towards the real Nala, and how she has never deviated in her mind or speech about this. So she says from the moment the bird conveyed the message about Nala, she's always thought of him as a husband, and there was never in her mind she has thought about anybody else apart from him. And thus she asks them to display their real forms, and so that she can know which is Nala among them. On hearing her words, the gods were moved by her piteous lamentation and her determination and intelligence, and how her love and devotion for Nala is so pure, and thus they reveal themselves to her. She was able to distinguish Nala from the celestials finally, and in accordance with the Swayamvara practices, Damayanthi chooses Nala and they exchange garlands, and thus they are married. There was a lot of disappointment in the court by the other kings, but the celestials and the sages gave their blessings to them both and praises for Nala. After the Swayamvara, the celestials, which is Indra, Agni, Varuna and Yama, being very pleased with Nala, they each give him 2 boons, which is a total of 8 boons. Indra gives the boon that Nala will be able to see him at sacrificial ceremonies and will attain supreme of sacred souls, and Agni gives him the boon that Agni will be present whenever he thinks of him, and that is at just the thought of Agni he could make fire, and he gave him the worlds as bright as himself. Yama gives him the boon where he is gifted to taste the essence of food, that is, he can prepare a great meal, and the supreme establishment of Dharma is a boon. And Varuna, the lord of water, gave him the gift of being present whenever he thought of him, and every other fragrant garland would be manifested by him. Even a dried flower could become fragrant just by thinking of it. After gifting these boons, the celestials leave earth and they go to the world of the gods. Nala and Damayanthi, thus they continue to live happily after this. When Indra, Agni, Varuna and Yama were returning to their world, they come across Kali and Dwapara. Kali and Dwapara are personifications of the Yuga. They ask Kali and Dwapara where they were going, and they say they were going to Damayanti's Swayamvara. On hearing this, Indra says with a smile that the Swayamvara is over and that Damayanti has chosen Nala as her husband, who is a man of earth. On hearing this from Indra, Kali is very much angered. He's like, how can Damayanti, choose a man in the presence of the celestials who are more superior? She deserves to be punished. And at this, Indra says that Damayanti has chosen Nala with their approval, and who would not choose Nala? He possesses such great qualities: truth, perseverance, generosity, austerity, purity, self-control, and so on. And all these can be found in him. And Indra says Nala is equal to the lords of the world, that is, the celestials themselves, and why would anyone wish to curse him? They only end up destroying themselves. After saying this, Indra, Agni, Yama, and Varuna, they leave for heaven. After them leaving, Kali is still unable to control his anger. He then asks Dwapara for his help. He says to Dwapara that Kali will enter Nala and remove him from his kingdom, and he will not be together with Damayanti, basically separate Nala and Damayanti. He asks Dwapara to enter the dais, and then Kali waits for an opportunity to enter into Nala. After making this agreement agreement with Dwapara, Kali and Dwapara goes to the kingdom of Nishada, that is Nala's kingdom, and he eagerly waits for an opportunity to enter Nala. He waits for 12 years and finally Kali finds a chance one day. So Nala passes urine, he goes to the toilet and he forgets to wash his feet before performing his evening ceremony. This is basically Sandhya Vandanam, which is done at dusk and dawn, and Kali uses this as a chance to enter Nala. And after possessing Nala, Kali goes to Pushkara, Nala's brother, and asks him to play the game of dice with Nala and says that Pushkara will certainly win over Nala's kingdom with his help. Now, the dice is also possessed by Dwapara. Pushkara then goes to Nala and persuades him to play the game of dice. Nala, as you all know, loves to play dice and he was thus unable to refuse the challenge. And also, Nala is possessed by Kali and the dice is possessed by Dwapara. And one by one, as soon as the game starts, Nala starts losing everything. First it's the gold, then the silver, then it's all his chariots, then his horses, and then his ornaments. And he very much gets addicted to playing this game of dice and he loses any form of rational thinking. His well-wishers, all the citizens of the kingdom, his advisors, they all try to tell him to stop playing, but Nala doesn't listen to any of them. And Damayanthi also tries to ask him to stop playing and he's not listening to her as well. And Damayanthi is very much grief-stricken and she's very sad at Nala's conditions. Pushkara and Nala, they keep playing this game of dice for several months and he's losing everything. On seeing Nala's madness and obsession with dice, Damayanthi understands it's time for her to take some action. She's very sad, but she knows that it is time that she needs to take some steps. So she calls for Nala's charioteer. His name is Varshaneya. She then asks Varshaneya for his help. Now that the moment of distress has come, she says that Nala is very much intoxicated by dice and he's not able to think properly. So she asks Varshaneya to take Nala's horse's chariot and their twins, a boy and girl, their names are Indrasena and Indrasena, to the city of Kundina, which is the capital city of Vidarbha. She asks him, Varshaneya, to leave the horses, the chariot and the children with her father, King Bhima, and to stay there if he wishes, or he could go to another place to find a job. Damayanthi is very clever here. She knows that the next thing Nala would bet would be his children and then they would become slaves for Pushkara. And also if Varshaneya comes back to Vidarbha, there is a likelihood they will know the whereabouts of the children. So she asks him to either stay back there at Vidarbha or to go anywhere else. So thus Varshaneya takes the children, the horses and the chariot, and he goes to the city of Kundina and he leaves the children and the chariot with King Bhima. King Bhima is very much happy to see his grandchildren, and after this the charioteer, he wanders for a while in the city of Kundina, and after which he enters the city of Ayodhya where he becomes charioteer to King Rituparna. Let's keep this in mind. So now Varshaneya is in the city of Ayodhya under King Rituparna as his charioteer.